You've probably heard the term failure to launch, right? It describes that really tough, sometimes heartbreaking situation where an adult child just, well, they don't leave. They stay dependent on their parents way past the point anyone thought they would. And it's a growing challenge for families all over the world. So today, we're going to dig into the family dynamics that actually create this situation. And here's the interesting part. We're going to explore some pretty surprising strategies that can help break the cycle.
First off, you gotta understand this isn't just happening in one place. It is a truly global phenomenon. Over in Japan, they have a specific term for it, hikikomori, which often points to this intense social withdrawal.
Then you hop over to Italy, where they call them bambuccioni. And that, well, it translates to something like big babies or big dummy boys. And in England, they have one of the most memorable names, Kippers. And what's so great about this one is, get this, it's actually an acronym. It stands for Kids in Parents' Pockets Eroding Retirement Savings. Ouch. And of course, that brings us back home to the United States, where we're all familiar with failure to launch. It was made famous by pop culture, but it reflects a very, very real struggle for millions of families.
So, okay, we've got all these different labels, right? But beyond the nicknames, researchers actually have a clinical way of looking at what's going on. They call it the full nest syndrome. And at the very heart of it is a dynamic called adult entitled dependence. So let's really tear this term apart. Adult entitled dependence, or AED, it's not just about a kid needing a hand. The absolute key here is the interaction. You have a child's dependence being met with support that, honestly, just isn't right for their age. And what that does is it creates this powerful feedback loop where the parents' help, which, comes from a place of love, ends up being the very thing that fuels the dependence they want to see end.
And that leads us directly to the core of the problem, what researchers call the accommodation trap. It's how loving, well-meaning parents can accidentally build the very cage that stops their child from ever flying on their own. And it almost always kicks off from a good place. A parent sees their child as in distress. Maybe they're anxious, they're struggling, and their immediate natural instinct is to jump in, to fix it, to make it better. That's called accommodation. But here's the thing. Over time, that beautiful instinct can seriously backfire. This table, it's pulled straight from the research, and it just maps out the whole trap perfectly. Take a look. On the left, you've got the child's behaviors, things like demanding money or blaming everyone else. And then on the right, you see the parent's response, giving the money, feeling guilty. You can literally see how each move on the right directly feeds the move on the left. It becomes this perfect, self-sustaining, vicious cycle. Let's walk through how that cycle plays out step by step. So, step 1, the adult child shows they're upset or makes a demand. Step 2, the parent rushes in with support to make the bad feelings go away. Now, in the moment, the child's anxiety goes down. But, and this is the crucial part, step 3, their own ability to cope gets weaker. Which leads us right to step 4, the entire pattern gets locked in, making it even more likely to happen next time. That is the trap in action. So how on earth do you break a cycle like that? Well, the answer is kind of a radical shift in focus. It's not about trying to fix the child. It's about changing the whole system by shifting the power dynamic. And this right here, this is the light bulb moment. This is the fundamental shift in thinking the research points to. The goal isn't to try and force the adult child to change. The real power, the place where change actually begins, is with the parents' actions. By changing their own accommodating behaviors, they can start to shift the entire family system. Okay, so if the parents are the key, what exactly are they supposed to do? Well, research has identified 2 really powerful evidence-based strategies that basically form a kind of parent playbook for building independence. The 2 main approaches are called nonviolent resistance, or NVR for short, and supportive parenting for anxious childhood emotions, which goes by the acronym SPACE. Now, they have slightly different targets. NVR is more about resisting destructive or coercive behaviors, while SPACE is all about dialing back how parents accommodate their child's anxiety. But here's what they share. They're both built on the exact same core idea, empowering parents to change their own actions first. So, let's dive into the NVR method. The core ideas here are really fascinating. First, the focus is on resistance, not control. Parents learn to resist the negative behaviors without trying to control their kid's life. Second is de-escalation. There's a fantastic line in the research, strike while the iron is cold. In other words, respond calmly and deliberately, not in the middle of a heated argument.
And finally, it's about breaking the secrecy, building a support network, and taking unilateral action, meaning the parents can start this process all on their own, even if the child isn't on board. Now, the SPACE method is laser focused on anxiety. It starts with parents learning how to make supportive statements. Statements that say, I hear you, I know this is hard, and I believe you can handle it. Then they literally map out every single way they accommodate the anxiety. From there, they pick just one small thing to change and create a step-by-step plan to slowly reduce it. The goal completely shifts from protecting their child from anxiety to supporting them through it.
All right, so does any of this stuff, this parent-led approach, does it actually work in the real world? Well, the data is pretty compelling. It shows that when parents change their own behavior, they create a whole new reality that just naturally encourages their kids to become more independent. I mean, just look at the real-world impact in this chart from the NVR study. It's pretty striking. Before the parents got the training, 23 of the adult children were unemployed. After the intervention, that number dropped all the way down to 15. And you see more of them starting to work part-time. It's just a crystal clear demonstration that when the parental behavior changes, it has a direct positive effect on the child's life. And the results from the SPACE program are just as powerful. In one study, after the parents went through the program, the young adult herself reported a massive 77.8% reduction in the family's accommodating behaviors. That's huge. The change was felt by everyone. And this quote from a parent who actually went through the SPACE program, it just gets right to the heart of everything. This realization is the whole game. Accommodation, even when it comes from the purest love, can accidentally send a message of doubt. But stepping back and letting your child face their own challenges, that sends a powerful message of confidence. Which leaves us with this final, crucial question. For any family that's caught in this painful cycle, the path forward can seem totally blocked. But all of this research, it suggests a really hopeful alternative. That the first and most powerful step toward an adult child's independence might just begin with the parents.